you have to start with the principle, I believe, that the present is the only thing you have. So if you find yourself thinking of the past or the future, in fact, to go back to the meditation point for a second, I can't remember what guru it was, but he had a very interesting meditation technique, and it was very simple. It was, you breathe and you stay in the present. And if you find yourself thinking of the future and the past, you take another deep breath and you go back to the present. That's the entire meditation technique. That's what you have to master. So, loss really is an inability to accept what is. Yet when you come out of it into a different, let's call it range, you know? Like when my mother died, it was here, and then after a couple of years it was here, and of course it's receded over time, and then at some point it doesn't move any further, it sucks, because she died. The acceptance, it's more back to the kind of control idea. If I don't accept this thing, this horrible thing, this tragic thing, it's like a way of saying, it didn't happen like I think it did, or it didn't hurt me like I don't want it to hurt me. It's like something like that. And when you finally let that go, it frees the energy up for an active relationship. I think the critical thing with loss is accepting that the relationship that you have, whatever it is, to yourself, to the world, to the deceased, a lost love or something, that is probably in its proper organic state. And that some other force above us that has a much better and more consistent version of how to run things, predicated on love, I would argue, kind of has it worked out. My mother actually, what's today's date?
15th.
My mother passed away, I think, around the 7th of 1996. Yeah. So it's just after 19 years. I have a relationship with my mother now that I never had when she was alive. But in order to have that relationship, I had to accept that she was dead. It's kind of weird, you know what I mean? You won't win in bitterness or regret. There's no winning. It's just the quantum physics.
You suffer if you keep replaying it. I mean, you physically suffer if you keep replaying it in your
But
body.
again, I think, and this is a tender subject, and I'm rooted to myself, I kind of like the suffering. The suffering gave voice. My mourning over my mother gave voice to regret. And the regret gave voice to the things that didn't happen. And the things that didn't happen, I could fantasize.
I see. Because there's feeling and then there's suffering, which can be dwelling.
Right, but it's a known thing. I didn't grow up with my mother. After the age of 4, I didn't grow up with my mother. Okay, so I can sit there and say, Mommy didn't do this, and Mommy didn't do that, and Mommy should have been there. Well, there were a lot of days I could have picked up the phone and called Mommy, and I was just too busy chasing some dumb chick. Right? So in order to work through what Mommy didn't do, you also have to accept what you didn't do. It's much easier to stay on the fantasy side of what Mommy could have done or should have done. God is great, in my humble opinion, because he or she is working on what you need. Not what you want. What you want is cookies and
Right, the things that you need to heal keep showing up. Right, what you need is to heal these things, and I believe that what shows up like a repeat lesson, it's different costumes, but you know, different characters show up to help you heal things that haven't healed.
Right. When I was in a very transitory stage of my life, I hope I'm answering your question. Okay. I was in a very heavy transitory stage in my life, and the person I was in relationships basically asked me, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm done dismantling the house I was living in." Right? And she said, "Okay, so what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm staring at the vacant lot." And she said, "Well, what good does that do?" And I said, "Because whatever I build there, I want to build there to last. I don't want to put up a temporary structure to go through dismantling it again." You know? When people ask about the Smashing Pumpkins, if I'm being honest, the only way I'm interested is if it was something that would last. And I don't mean we're back together, Siamese dream 2. I'm saying is, if you're going to heal, you heal. If you're going to move on, you move on. I had a great therapist for a while who's from Chicago, and we were talking about anger as it's associated to, lack of forgiveness or something. And he was trying to get me to access like this kind of molten lava anger about something. So I did. I got to this
Grungy place.
Thank you. I was wearing the flannel shirt. I had the goatee. I was angry. And I said, now what? He goes, you move the fuck on. You let it go. Get it out, move on. And the answer was, I didn't want to let it go. I quite enjoyed what I was getting in exchange. The problem with that kind of stuff, particularly as it pertains to art, is it's cancerous. You get a lot of good songs out of She Broke My Heart, but you wake up one day and there's nothing left. You're hollow because you haven't been putting in the good stuff. So that's a good one.